The NFL currently has a ton of great quarterbacks, and I could see almost every starting quarterback having an incredible season in 2025. That said, there are certainly some quarterbacks who stand a much better chance at doing that than others. Here are my top 10 quarterbacks for the 2025 NFL season. Number 10, Jared Goff, Detroit Lions. Now, you could definitely make the argument that Goff should be higher on this list, as his stats over the last 3 seasons have been very good, but I definitely see him as more of a system quarterback. He's had the benefit of working under Ben Johnson for his entire time in Detroit. Johnson has been one of, if not the best coordinator in football during that stretch, and now Goff will have his first season without him in 2025. Additionally, he has been given every weapon he could possibly want at his disposal with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Tim Patrick, Jahmyr Gibbs, and David Montgomery in his offense. That said though, his numbers are undeniable. He's been an incredibly efficient quarterback over the last several years, and a large part of the Lions' 2 playoff runs. Regardless of how good the system is, that definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 9, Bo Nix, Denver Broncos. Nix burst onto the scene in his rookie year, throwing for 3,775 yards and 29 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Additionally, he added 4 touchdowns on the ground and even 1 through the receiving game. Nix seems to have broken the Broncos' quarterback curse, and while I know I'll probably get some flame for putting him here, just hear me out first. You have to objectively examine the offense Nix was put into for his first year in the NFL. First of all, they had absolutely no threat of a run game, with leading rusher Javonte Williams recording just 513 yards. This allows opposing defenses to spend substantially more time game planning for the pass and ultimately giving him a much harder job. Secondly, Nix's receiver core isn't really anything special. If you remember, it was widely debated going into last season if you could even call Courtland Sutton a wide receiver 1. Well, Nix helped silence those doubts as he played a large role in Sutton's first 1,000-yard season since 2019. Even with that though, I still think most people would rank him on the lower end of wide receiver 1s in this league, and while the Broncos have depth at the wide receiver position with lots of good receivers, they're not guys who are going to elevate the performance of their quarterback. So with that said, this makes Bo Nix's rookie year that much more impressive, as it shows how complete of a quarterback he is despite having just 1 year of NFL experience, and that he's absolutely deserving of being on this list. Number 8, Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles. Hurts' performance in the playoffs last season was incredible, and he was a major part of the Eagles' Super Bowl run. His Super Bowl MVP award backs that up, and although his regular season stats weren't the most eye-popping, they certainly are up to par for something on this list. He threw for 2,903 yards and 18 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions, and while the yardage and passing touchdowns finished in the bottom 12 of starting quarterbacks last year, this is where you need to factor in what he brings to the run game. He also tallied 630 rushing yards and a whopping 14 rushing touchdowns last season, which was good for 5th in the league and 1st among quarterbacks. While yes, he definitely wouldn't be the same quarterback if the Eagles didn't have one of the best O-lines and receiver duos in the league, he's brought this consistent performance for 4 straight years now, and in my mind, that is absolutely deserving of a spot on this list. Then you factor in how much he has stepped up for them in big games, and there's absolutely no way you can leave him off of here. Number 7, Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield has proven every doubter wrong over the last 2 seasons and emerged as a premier quarterback in this league. The former walk-on turned number 1 overall pick and Heisman Trophy winner was counted out by the franchise that drafted him after an injury before being sent to Carolina to die. He turned that around with a brief stint with the Rams, which earned him a 1-year prove-it deal with Tampa Bay. He's taken that opportunity and turned it into a complete career revival, while those same Browns that traded him in 2022 now have a 5-man quarterback competition to try and fill that void. So it's undeniable that he has one of the best stories in the NFL, but how about his level of play? He had a great year in 2023, throwing for 4,044 yards and 28 touchdowns, which were both career highs at the time. But while that exceeded expectations, I don't think anybody was ready for what he brought to the table in 2024. He threw for a whopping 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns, both career highs and good for 3rd and 2nd in the league respectively. He has elevated this Buccaneers offense and led them to a division title in 2 straight seasons. I'd say he is where the bar for elite quarterbacks is set, and I could even see him climbing this list by year's end. Number 6, Jayden Daniels, Washington Commanders. Jayden Daniels had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen from a rookie quarterback in 2024, throwing for 3,568 yards and 25 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions. Additionally, he rushed for 891 yards and 6 touchdowns as he was the true spark plug of the Commanders' offense. He then followed that up with an incredible playoff run to the NFC Championship before losing to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. He did this despite not having the deepest wide receiver room to throw to, with Terry McLaurin being the only elite option and no other player registering more than 654 yards. He won Rookie of the Year in a landslide, and I only have confidence for him to build on it in 2025. The sophomore slump has proven to be an issue for young quarterbacks, especially in recent years, but I think if there's one guy I'd bet on to overcome that, it would be him. The McLaurin trade request does raise some questions about his weapons this season, but the Commanders have added the likes of Michael Gallup, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Lane, and Ja'Cory Brooks in the offseason, so it'll be interesting to see if one of them can emerge as his go-to target. But regardless, Daniels will be a household name in the NFL in no time, and I don't see him going anywhere but up on this list. Number 5, Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert has continued to be the pillar of consistency in the NFL for 5 seasons now. That's why he's still largely a unanimous top 5 quarterback in the league despite being in an offense that heavily favors the run. He threw for 3,870 yards in 2024, which is an impressive number by normal quarterback standards, but believe it or not, it falls short of the precedent he set for himself in his first 3 seasons. In those years, he never threw for below 4,300 yards, so it just goes to show how much the run-first offense has affected his playstyle. The 23 touchdowns he threw were also the second lowest of his career, but he backed these lower numbers up with an even lower one. He threw just 3 interceptions despite starting all 17 games, which is just insane. And let me be clear on this, I'm not mentioning his numbers like this to knock his play whatsoever. He had a great year in 2024, and these stats are something most quarterbacks would only dream of having at the NFL level. The only reason I bring them up as low in comparison to the rest of his career is just to show how elite he's been so far. The few Chargers fans that exist are very lucky to have gone from one future Hall of Fame quarterback in Phillip Rivers straight to another one in Justin Herbert, and the fact that they have the luxury of not needing to rely on him in their offense this year is incredibly scary. So who knows, that could make them a dangerous team this season if they can figure out their defense, but regardless, Herbert is a top 5 quarterback, and there's not many people who I feel like will debate that. Number 4, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow put together an MVP caliber season in 2025, throwing for 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, and only 9 interceptions. Somehow the Bengals didn't end up making the playoffs off the back of this, but everyone could collectively acknowledge that it was no fault of Burrow. While he's battled injury throughout his career, he's been incredible while healthy, and I'm sure that had injuries not been an issue, he would be higher on this list. Unfortunately, that'll likely be a concern this year as well, as he's missed substantial time in 2 of his first 5 NFL seasons to this point and dealt with nagging injuries in the other 3. While he was able to overcome this in 2024, you do have to wonder if the same will remain true this year. He also finds himself at 4 due to the lack of a Super Bowl championship or an MVP, as those are 2 mountaintops he hasn't been able to climb just yet. But with that said, it takes nothing away from who he is as a player, and I think he'll only build on his 2024 campaign this season and lead the Bengals back to the playoffs. Number 3, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills. The reigning MVP seems to finally have it all figured out in his career, and the campaign he put together last season was a testament to that. He threw for 3,731 yards and 28 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions while leading the Bills to the AFC Championship game. While he hasn't quite been able to get his team over the hump and take them to the Super Bowl yet, he's now accomplished everything else there is to do with an MVP award on the shelf. He's an elite quarterback, and there's no question about it anymore. The concern some fans had with him was his high interception total from 2021 to 2023, which was what was really holding him back from that MVP race. Well, sure enough, the first season with those interception numbers cut down to single digits since 2019 saw him take home that very trophy. He's done so with limited options in the receiving game as well. I love Khalil Shakir and think he's a very underrated wideout, but he's not elite by any means. The same can be said about the rest of the receiver room, and the fact that Shakir led the team in receiving by almost 300 yards while only having 821 total backs that up. Allen does an incredible job of using every weapon available to him though, as he targeted a variety of receivers every single game and never gave defenses one guy to focus in on. The reason he only finds himself at 3 though is because the guy above him honestly had a better season in my opinion. And that man at number 2 is Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. My guess as to why Allen took home the MVP last year over Jackson is just that he hadn't won one yet and Jackson had. But if anything, that just says to me why Lamar is the better quarterback overall. He put up 4,172 yards and 41 touchdowns through the air to only 4 interceptions, while also adding 915 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground as the best dual threat quarterback in the league. Seriously, he should have taken home the MVP with those numbers. His lack of playoff success is really the only thing holding him back at this point, as he and the Ravens have only managed to reach the AFC Championship once in his career, and he's actually lost to Josh Allen and the Bills twice in the divisional round. Regardless of how good this team is during the regular season, they always seem to come up short in the playoffs, and as the quarterback, that sort of falls on his shoulders. With his talent, Derrick Henry in the backfield, and a defense the caliber of theirs, the Super Bowl is the expectation, so anything other than that is sort of viewed as falling short. But if anything, that just says to me how great of a quarterback he is. Anytime you can consider not winning the Super Bowl to be short of expectations, you're doing something right. And, well, that's been the situation he and the Ravens have been in for the last several years now, as he's established that as long as he's taking the field for them, they expect to be the best team in the league. They are right to have that expectation as well, and if you wanted to move him to the number 1 spot, I honestly wouldn't blame you. But at number 1, I have Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know this may seem like a bit of a cop-out pick, but if you objectively examine the quarterback landscape of the NFL, there's no question Mahomes takes the crown. I've seen Mahomes fall as far as 4th place on some people's quarterback rankings after the season he had in 2024, which is just absurd to me. He threw for 3,928 yards and 26 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, which is still a great quarterback season, mind you. The only reason this was viewed as a down year for him is because it was the first time he's failed to reach 4,000 passing yards in his time as the Chiefs starter. Mind you, he missed it by less than 100 yards. The fact that that is the expectation only goes to show how insanely good he is. He's won 3 Super Bowls already and never missed the playoffs in his career, while also taking home the AFC West Championship in all of those seasons. At the age of just 29, he's constantly in the GOAT conversation, which although I think you'd be crazy to call him the GOAT at this point in his career, he certainly does deserve to be in that discussion. This is absolutely crazy for how young he is, and the fact that he even has a chance to take that title away from Brady someday is even crazier. Mahomes has also done this while getting little to no help since the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce is a shell of his former self, and his other top target, Rashee Rice, can't seem to stay on the field. Aside from that, the Chiefs have provided him with a washed rental of DeAndre Hopkins, a washed Juju Smith-Schuster, an injured Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, who hasn't really fit well into their scheme to this point, Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Justin Watson, and Mecole Hardman every once in a while. That is far from what I'd call an elite receiving core, but the fact of the matter is, they know they don't need elite receivers for Mahomes to bring them success. He's been to the Super Bowl in all but 2 seasons as the starter and was 1 offsides penalty away from making that 1. As much as people, including myself as a Broncos fan, hate to say it, Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. While there are a few quarterbacks creeping up on him now, I still think that title is going to be his for quite some time. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button to help grow the channel and leave a like on this video. Let me know in the comments what changes you'd make to the list, and stay tuned for more upcoming content I have coming out in the last few weeks before the season begins. Other than that, take care.